Welcome to Suzuka, a track that definitely requires a very unique driving style, in my opinion. This track, probably more so than any other track in the game, will reward patience, which is kind of the opposite of anything. Everything in racing is about go right now, right? But as we'll observe, especially the S's here, the real key is just to be patient. And if you feel like you could have gone through them a little bit faster than you did, then you probably did it right. Also, turn one, I will say this is a unique approach. It as one corner with your goal really being to make this right rear now. And you may also go back and look at just how light I was on the brakes. Notice no brakes up the S's. And just gently keep applying gas, especially in the rain. But even in dry, just a lot of patience through here. All right. Now, let's try to take a flying lap. I'll narrate this, then we'll look at a track map, and we'll go turn by turn and talk about this. Now, turn one, I would say when you're starting out, drive it a lot like I'm driving it in the rain, and then work your brake zone in. So I'm going to start, notice not much braking, and just make it one long brake zone until we get to that sharper right for turn two. Get to the right, we're going to lift to make turn three, no brakes. Notice here again, no brakes, we're just coasting. Up a gear as well. We can hustle it around the left. And this is a very much patient. Keep adding wheel, get to the right side of the track, and now we can start adding gas again. And this might have been a little bit too early, as you can see with the wiggle. But just gas. We're going to go to the last marker, brake, a very fast turn, index off the end of the curb, brake. Very slow turn here, though. Turn in sharp. And now we're coming up on the hairpin where we just kind of hustle it through. Brake just before the end of the curb. Get it slowed down, woed down good. And now the goal is get the wheel straight. It does like to suck you around here, and the earlier you straighten the wheel, the better off you're going to be. In the rain, you need to get left. Now this next set of corners, we're going to approach it as one corner. We're going to use a little bit of that turn one style. Brake hard, but then trail off, gently back to the gas though this time. And the goal here is to get wide open throttle as soon as you can. If you can use the curbs, great. But if you missed the curbs, but you were able to get to the gas, then good. And coming up to 130R. And this one, we're going to have to lift a little bit. Use that last turn marker to tell you when to turn in. Make sure you do any speed adjustment beforehand. Now, last turn, brake. We'll go over to brake marker later. Use a lot of curb. Car placement through here is very key. Use the curbs a lot. The bump is gone. Gently applying gas to the straightaway. And that's the lap, guys. Now, let's go turn by turn and track map.
All right, let's get into Japan. This is something I don't normally do, but I feel like I can articulate how to drive this track better from a track map first. So I'm going to talk about turns 1 through about 7 briefly, and then we'll do a turn by turn. So as you come into turn 1, as I'm going to tell you, to try to work on braking lighter around this first little bend, because this bend is much faster than you think. And there's a set of curbs right about here where my mouse is, that your real goal is to get to that curb as fast as you can and yet be able to make the sharper right around turn 2 at the same time. And there's a few different ways you can go about that, which I will now get into after I talk about the next thing. And the next thing is that once you apply the brake some to make this turn at turn 2, the next time you should apply your brake is turn 8. Now, I understand that I'm in a very well-developed Red Bull as I write this, and you might need brakes, but your braking should be very, very minimal. I mean like a 3 out of 10 pedal, just brief, or possibly use your brakes to make corrections. You should be able to, and especially at first, if you need to, if you're in something like a Williams that just doesn't turn well, you might need to use brakes going through these curves. But, and I would say initially as a goal, work on driving this with no brakes. And the way you can do this as well is by easing off the gas. Like if you just jump off the gas, the car might get unsettled. Ease on the gas, ease off the gas. And basically the rule is when you're going around these rights, notice how much sharper the right-handers are than the lefts. So the lefts you can kind of hustle the car around. Like right around here, you may even need a light brush right there. I can usually make it with just a quick lift, maybe just a tiny brush of the brake. Go through here, and then you be very, very patient. Usually off the gas for a couple of seconds. Coast around the right. You can kind of get back on the gas, hustle it around the left-hander, and then really be patient around turn 6. And notice, we'll talk about this again, the track tightens up right there and it'll throw you to the outside and then totally screw you up for the Dunlop curve. All right. So those are the two goals that I'm going to emphasize again. Now, as you come into this corner, there is an access road. Very, very difficult to see here. Maybe I should have used my bright image for this. But I start my turn in here. Now, if you're doing like your first couple of laps and you haven't been to this track in a while, I would start a light brake application, maybe to about there on your brake pedal, kind of like I do in the rain as you do this. And kind of aim to get the car to the curb. Now, getting to the curb is not nearly as important as carrying a lot of speed into this corner. And especially until you figure out just how fast turn one is. This is your goal, but car placement's not going to be as important. I mean, if you're on the left side of the track, yeah, you're wrong. You're about to end up in the sand. Thanks Senna and Prost in 91, I think it was. But even so, even if you use a very hard application, you're not going to keep that hard application for very long. You're going to notice that I'm already trailing the brakes off here. And I may even trail off to even more than that and just very, very lightly drag the brake as the car comes out to here. Now, as you finish up your trail brake, you may even need to then push the brakes again. And really what your goal is going to be is to turn all of this into just one giant brake zone. You shouldn't be brake, gas, brake, especially if you're using the line assist. It's going to royally jack with you going through here if you're doing it right, because you can really sling the car through turn one. So get to the outside here. There is a curb to the right. We may need a little bit more brake to get to that curb. We want to hold that curb for a second maybe. And then it's okay to let the car go out on this curb. Good placement at exit here. Now your goal is to get back to the right, which I stupidly placed the words over. And remember our rule is that we can hustle it around the lefts, but we're going to be very, very patient around the rights. It goes against every fiber in our being to do that, but that's what we need to do. My car, I was able to make this with a lift. You might need a light brake, but work on using as little brake as possible, or even just a lift, to make this left. You notice there is a little bit of green. You can kind of get on it, but once you get to the green, it's almost like it'll try to suck your car around. I will also add a note that a lot of cars, if you're consistently having issues with when you go to make this, because you're going to be turning left, you're obviously going to have to turn right. When you go to make that right, if you're having a consistent issue, if your car wanting to kind of jump around or kind of understeer for a second or just feel like it doesn't want to do what you want or even spin out, add a little downforce. A stable car is going to be better than that low downforce to shoot down a straightaway, which is what I have now, actually. So if your car can't make that right consistently, add some downforce. So here we are. Notice, and then let me go back and note, as you come to the corner apex, you might be able to add some gas momentarily. I might even be adding gas right now. But as you start coming back to this right-hander, notice I'm going to start easing off the gas, and I'm probably going to be completely off the gas, honestly, most laps. And I'm going to try to get to that curb. On that particular video, I kind of overdid a little bit, but this is about where you want to end up. Try to drift over no further than this. Now, if you do end up on the left-hand curbs, you're not going to be able to get gas down. And this is the hustle zone on the map. This is a hustle zone to hustle into this left-hand corner. And as we hustle into that left-hander, quickly we'll see this image. And this is the last spot we need to be really, really, really patient on this map. As we approach the beginning of this curb, we're going to have to ease off this gas and ease off quickly but smoothly. Don't just jump off the gas. Jumping off the gas is going to unsettle the car. And as you get to this curb, you're going to ease off the gas until there is nothing, and you might have to tap the brake just to pull the car in if you're in too hot. Your goal, remember, is to not need any of that. And notice, here I am. I'm holding the right-hand side of the curb, and I have no gas on the car. And I've been going that way for a while. I'm also up a gear. And what you got to be careful of is right about here is where the corner tightens up. As you notice on the map, it doesn't really show it very well, but the corner tightens up a lot, and it's really easy for your car to just suddenly pop left, and the reason is the track tightened up on you. And it's also going downhill, which is going to make your car light, which is going to make it lose grip. Now, as you come off that corner, you're likely going to end up somewhat to the left. You want to kind of aim to keep the car to the middle of the track. I am going back to the gas, and my goal is to take it over this kind of strange looking little patch in the pavement here. And it's also level with the signboard. I don't really know how to describe that spot, just other than it's a weird spot in the pavement. Now, what is tricky is that as you go back to gas, don't turn left into this Dunlop curve until you go over that patch or beyond that sign. If you do, you are going to be lifting a lot going around this corner. Notice that the initial corner is actually very sharp, and then it opens up a lot, and then it kind of tightens up a little bit again. So what we're going to do here is we turn just after the weird spot in the pavement. We get close to, but not over this curb. And somewhere along here, we might need to lift a little bit to make sure the car can make it. The car really likes to run out of track through here. Now, there is a spot as you go past the curb where there's a little bit extra pavement out here. I would not be aiming to use it consistently lap after lap, but it's there if you need it. The problem is if you're using it is that there's grass here and there's a steep curb to jack you up here. So it's really kind of an avoid. And honestly, if you're out there on it, you might want to think about lifting a little bit to get the car back on course. Then that's the deal. You keep it wide open throttle. You'll be 8th gear, very, very fast. There's 3 signboards, and I used the last one in the rain. I have to brake quite a bit earlier here, actually. But I wanted to show you on the track map. Look how not sharp that corner is. This is a very fast corner. I am of a mindset of running a low downforce setup here, which means I'm going to need quite a bit of braking. I have actually used a high downforce setup and made this corner wide open throttle. But to me, that scrubs too much speed down the straightaways. So we're actually, I guess I said that kind of wrong. It's going to be a very hard but very short duration of braking here. It's just pop the pedal down, pop it right back up as you turn in. 2 tires on here is fine. If you're on regular corner cutting stringency, you might even get away with putting your left side tires on there. I'm on strict, however, because I'm crazy. But I would aim to put 2 on the curbs, and then you should be fast enough that your car has no choice but to put 2 over these curbs as well. And then you're going to index your braking a few red and white bars before the end. If you're really high downforce, maybe even the end of this setup. And then right as you turn in, your aim is to have 2 tires on this curb. And let me go back and show you. My turn-in point is right about there. So I brake about here, and then I'm going to turn very shortly afterwards, just at the end of the curb, maybe a car length past the curb. We're going to go to the curb. 2 tires on it is good. 2 tires on that green is actually better. And we're going to hustle up. The weird thing about strict corner cutting stringency was it seemed like if I kind of got into trouble and needed to put 4 tires over here, I was fine. But if like 2 tires touched the verge line, it like freaked out. Very weird. But I did want to show you that, inevitably you're going to end up out here. And I think a lot of times we notice this is the back straightaway going over top of us, is that it's actually paved underneath that. So if you need to leave the car out here momentarily while you bring the car back onto the track, that's fine. There's no grass to worry about. You'd stay track left. You'd kind of hug around this curb to the right. And for me, at least, I have to brake just before the curb ends. I tried to work on get straight and brake, and that just took me too deep into the corner. So I have to brake right just before this curb ends. And notice that the track is going right, which makes it very hard to stay right. You're probably going to end up a little bit off to the left. And I think it's actually more ironic. I did put the words over to the hairpin. Normally in a hairpin, I would say drive in deep, turn very sharp and very late to get a nice run down the straightaway. But notice the corner is banked a little bit. And I think it's actually more important that you hustle it in and hustle it back off. Because you can turn pretty early here as the track is cambered in your favor. I would turn just as you start to see the curb on the inside kind of start curving around. I would start to kind of turn with it. If you don't get to the corner, that's fine. Or to the curb, rather, that's fine. But you want to be at least within a car width. Like, you shouldn't be able to drive another car between you and the curbs. That would be your goal. If you touch the curbs, okay. And then your next goal is, as you come off, try to get the car parallel and straight with this curb, but not on it. It will kind of jack up your balance. And this is a spot to be very wary of getting on the throttle before you turn. Notice I'm at about half throttle, and I really need to be straightening the wheel up more here because it really likes to loop you into this guardrail. This corner really likes to sucker you in into hitting the gas too early. It's also a spot in 2020 AI make a lot of mistakes. I actually passed Nicholas Latifi after he nearly jacked his car up here. Going around this right-hander, there's nothing too big of a deal about it unless it's raining. If it's dry, you want to kind of stick to the middle, to the right half of the track around this bend. If it's raining, your car is going to want to spin out doing that. You want to hold the wheel straight and let it kind of just go around the outside of this long right bend. It is basically a straightaway. So we'll come to the spoon corner, it is called. apparently, on the track map I used earlier. Seriously, go back and look at it. We're going to index our braking off about 50. It's going to be another one of those hard brakes initially, and then we're going to trail really quick. We're also going to aim to get to these curbs, and notice I have trailed off a lot. And right as the left side tires want to touch the curbs, I'm going to gently start applying gas again, and I might even hit wide open throttle down this little miniature short chute. But right about where I'm at now, I'm very seriously thinking about getting back on the brakes, getting the car, getting some speed scrubbed off, and then right about time you can see the red and white of those curbs forming, and there's a gray curb as well there, strangely. You can turn and kind of go for it. So right about here, I didn't quite make it, but I had the right idea. I'm kind of pointed at it, but the car understeered and missed, so I'm going to switch over to another view, and that is here. The curb is usable, but your main priority from here out is that you want to make sure when you get to wide open throttle that you're not lifting, and you want to be wide open throttle as soon as you can while being able to respect the limits of the track and not having to lift. And that if you can get to the curbs as you do that, great. But if you miss the curbs by a car whip somehow, yet you still manage to get the car wide open throttle and launch it down the straightaway, that's your main goal. This curb is usable, but for some reason it likes to it's very tempting for me to kind of get out onto that curb and then break the track limits and have to use a rewind. What I start doing is once I'm back here, there's a spot between this photo and this photo that you can see the straightaway, and I start trying to look down the straightaway, and looking down the straightaway helps me avoid abusing the track limits. So here we go to 130R, another infamous turn in F1. As long as it's dry and your car is reasonably good, this turn should be wide open throttle for most cars. Maybe a crappy one like the Haas or the Williams, you might have to lift for this consistently. I turn in just at the 50 sign, and basically you can use the inside curbs, you can use the outside curbs that aren't pictured here. I mean, it's just a bend into straightaway. You see I'm even going in with the ERS on. There's nothing too fancy to it other than just that it's one of the fastest corners in F1. If it's raining, you want to be lifting here. You don't want to be, the thing about a fast corner, and this is so true of real life as well, you don't want to be lifting and braking in the middle of a fast corner. So if it's raining, or if you're in a bad car, you need to do your speed adjustment back here. So if you watch my rain lap, I lift a little bit back here, and then I'm back on the gas by the time I get to that curb, and I'm staying on the gas through the corner. Cars like to be told what to do. That thing about the S's being off the gas is just definitely an exception. The car will be a lot better balanced and a lot less likely to spin out if you are on the gas through 130R. Now, there's a signboard before this one, not pictured. Right about here is where I do my braking. And it's a lot earlier than what my intuition tells me. There's also a 100 sign, but these tires are a lot easier to see. And I brake a lot harder and a lot because the thing is, this is a sharp right-hander ahead, as you can see on the map, and you don't want to let the car track out. You want to kind of hug that curb as you go around momentarily, and then cut to the left real quick. Here we are up ahead at our turn zone, and this is where we want to turn nice and sharp, and we want to use 2 tires on that curb, and we want to hold the right half of the track. And then we want to turn late enough that the car just puts 2 tires on that curb. 2 tires solidly on the curb. Don't just kiss this curb. Put 2 tires solidly on that curb. This is the track out, and the nice news for F1 2020, guys, there is no bump going through this section. It was notoriously bad in these games. I mean, to the point that it would wreck your car if you did not have traction control on. It is gone in 2020, guys. But the thing is, because it's downhill, and because you're going around a corner for numerous reasons, the car wants to lose traction anyway. So be careful putting gas down. Launch her down the straightaway, and you've done a lap, guys. And that's how we get around Japan. Remember, I was not well liked as a child, so leave me a like on the video to help me make up for it. Thank you for watching.
Great lap. You've nailed what we asked for. Keep it up. Okay, super job so far. We're getting great data. Stay focused.